Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and mercy and blessings of Allah be with you all. Thank you for joining me for this live post. In this post, I will be discussing the question of whether or not the Quran really denies the crucifixion of Jesus, on whom be peace. Now, it is a common interpretation of the Quran, Surah 4, verse number 157, that Jesus was not crucified, but instead someone else was made to look like him, and that someone else was put on the cross instead. This is very commonly stated in the major commentaries of the Quran in Arabic. And now, of course, some of those Quran commentaries are being translated into English. That's available in English as well. But many commentators in English as well follow the same line of thought. And many of our du'at, those who are giving the message of Islam to non-Muslims, especially in dialogue and debate, also maintain the same line of thought. So I want to question that a little bit by, first of all, looking at the verse itself, seeing what specifically it says, and to be clear about what it doesn't say, and then also to look at how that might be approached in modern times. So the verse is Surah 4, verse 157, which reads, وَقَوْلِهِمْ إِنَّا قَتَلْنَا الْمَسِيحَ عِيسَى ابْنَ مَرْيَمَ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ اخْتَلَفُوا فِيهِ لَفِي شَكٍّ مِّنْهُ مَا لَهُمْ بِهِ مِنْ عِلْمٍ إِلَّا اتِّبَاعَ الظَّنِّ وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ يَقِينًا بَلْ رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَزِيزًا حَكِيمًا. So I've read two verses there actually, 157 and 158. And then if we go on to 159, وَإِن مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا لَيُؤْمِنَنَّ بِهِ قَبْلَ مَوْتِهِ وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يَكُونُ عَلَيْهِمْ شَهِيدًا. And so let me give some rough translation here. And of course, somewhat rough because I'm going by memory and speaking off the cuff here. So, وَقَوْلِهِمْ, as for their saying, and also their saying, you see, it follows from their speaking a buhtan against Maryam alayhi salam. So Allah is blaming them for all of these things. So they're speaking a great calumny against Maryam. And now, they're saying, Inna qatalna al-Masih Isa ibn Maryam. We killed the Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary. وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ. Whereas they did not kill him, nor did they crucify him. وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ. But so it was made to appear to them. وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ اخْتَلَفُوا فِيهِ لَفِي شَكٍّ مِّنْهُ. And those who differ about it or him, I leave the two options for the moment. I'll come back to that. Those who differ about it or him are in doubt concerning it or him. They have no knowledge except that they follow a conjecture. But they did not kill him for certain. But God raised him to himself, and God is mighty wise. And there is no person of the book except that will believe in him prior to his death. And on the day of judgment, he will be a witness over them. Okay, so now let's go back to this him or it. You see the Arabic pronoun, which is represented by a singular sound, hu, in the short form when it's affixed at the end of certain words. It instead of the huwa is the complete form. Huwa means he or it. It can refer to a person. It can refer to an inanimate object, or to a situation. And when it is given in the short form as affixed to the end of the word, so like for example, ma qataluhu, they did not kill him or did not kill it. But in this case, I didn't give the alternatives him or it because everyone agrees ma qataluhu, they did not kill him, that is Jesus, on whom be peace. Okay, but it was made to appear to them. It was made to appear to them. Now, this was a passive form. Right? This is the passive form. So this means that the pronoun is not even mentioned, it is only implied. It's like when we say, It is raining. It is raining. This is like an impersonal um, action here. It is raining. Like who's raining? We can say God sends down the rain. God is causing rain. So there is an actor and there is the thing acted upon. Now, it is raining. It's like the situation is such that it is raining. It's not like anyone doing the action. Still, that is not the complete explanation here. So the Arabic passive, shubbiha lahum, could mean it was made to appear to them, or he was made to appear to them. So the pronoun is not mentioned. Even in English, if we wanted to say that somebody was killed in the passive, we would say he was killed. So the he is mentioned. In Arabic, the he is somewhat absorbed in the verb itself. So shubbiha absorbs the he. He was killed, but it could be also it was. Shubbiha it was made to appear, and or it can be he was made to appear. So the he is not mentioned explicitly, but it is absorbed in the verse. Okay. So either he or it was made to appear. Now the commentators who have the idea that somebody was made to appear like Jesus, on whom be peace, and then crucified instead. They have the he here. He was made to appear, which would mean that Jesus, and even this is not true to the commentators. Let me step back for a moment. So the commentators are saying that the person who was eventually crucified was made to look like Jesus. So walakin shubbiha lahum. He, that is the crucified victim, was made to look like Jesus. And those who differ about him or it, now here the ambiguity steps in and requires the duality of the possible translations here, he or it, because now it's no longer clear like what is it that they would differ about. So shubbiha lahum wal inna alladhina ikhtalafu fihi. So those who differ concerning him or concerning the matter. وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ اخْتَلَفُوا فِيهِ لَفِي شَكٍّ مِّنْهُ. They are in doubt concerning him or it. So they're in doubt either about the him or about the it, about the situation. So what the classical commentators did was they started with the idea that Jesus was not put on the cross at all. I'll come back to that. And then they wanted to ask, well, if he was not put on the cross at all, how did it so appear to them that they crucified Jesus? So they have this elaborate story about how somebody was made to look like Jesus and put on the cross instead. So now they come to this part about the this doubt that the people had, and still they're asking, well, if you have somebody else crucified in this instead of Jesus, and he looked like Jesus, to all observers, he was Jesus. Otherwise, why would the Romans crucify him if he didn't even look like Jesus? So they think that everybody thought that this was Jesus, except, according to a story, some of the disciples of Jesus knew the story, knew that Jesus was saved, taken up into heaven, and one of his disciples was made to look like him, or alternatively, Judas Iscariot was made to look like him. Now, if the person on the cross looked like Jesus to all observers, why would anyone have a doubt about him? See, the disciples would have no doubt because they know the story. But why would the Jews or the Romans have any doubt? In this case, it's the verses, Quranic verses focusing on the Jews. Why would they have any doubt about that? Because they could see, this is the man we are crucifying, this is Jesus. So they now say that when they looked at the person on the cross, that is, the commentators are saying that when the observers looked at the person on the cross, they could see that this is the body of the companion of Jesus, while this is the face of Jesus. So they have some doubt. For them to have this kind of doubt, it would mean that they would have to have some kind of elaborate knowledge of what the body of the companion of Jesus looks like. And so this is not clear how the commentators imagined that this would have been the situation on the ground. So stepping back from this, you can see these difficulties that there in the classical commentaries on the Quran. Going back to this idea that he was not even put on the cross, where did they get this from? Because the verbs are twice. Ma qataluhu, they did not kill him. Wa ma salabuhu, and they did not crucify him. So the classical commentators took that to be two different things that are being denied. He was not killed, that's one denial. He was not crucified, that's another denial. And they wanted to avoid repetition. So if you say, a person may be killed by crucifixion, right? He's put on the cross, he's left there for days, he dies, then you can say he was killed. So if you already denied that he was killed, so ma qataluhu, did not kill him, what's the point of now denying that he was crucified? Because that's like saying they did not kill him, and they did not kill him by crucifixion. So there seems to be some repetition here. And the classical commentators wanted to avoid repetition. I think that's a good principle. We should all try to avoid repetition, or we should try in our interpretation of the Quran to interpret apparent repetitions as each having its own emphasis and its own thrust. So they took each statement in its absolute meaning. Ma qataluhu, they did not kill him at all. Ma salabuhu, they did not crucify him at all. And so they had two different things that are distinct. Now, our entry point here is to first look at what some European scholars are saying, and I'll just have a quick look at your comments as well, and make sure that everything looks good, because if things are not right, you would let me know if something is wrong with the sound or the video. And I see in the meantime that Brother Muhammad Tunkara has shared the post. Thank you for that. And Sister Chani Larry, thank you as well, and Brother Mustafa Solo. Please forgive me if I mispronounce your names, or if I misjudge the gender from your names and maybe from the profiles, pictures that you have included. It's all in good faith and all in good spirit. So I appreciate you all being here. Thank you to all of those who have offered comments. I'll come back later on and look at your comments in some more detail. If there are questions, I'll try to answer them for you. Okay, so the European scholars, by this I mean what used to be called Orientalists at one time, people who are in Europe trying to study Islam as persons from looking at the faith from the outside. So many of them find it problematic that you have a history that says that Jesus was crucified, and it's there in the Gospels, that's true, but historians hardly want to deny this. And then they look at the Quran and they say, well, okay, so the Quran is denying the crucifixion, and that would mean that the Quran is wrong. So William Montgomery Watt, he, though being very sympathetic towards, in his presentation of Islam on the whole, he has raised this as a problem against the Quran, that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, thinks that through his Quran he can revise history. So William Montgomery Watt would not accept that. But later, a number of scholars, especially in present times, who are not Muslims, have said that, you know what, the Quran is not really denying the story as it is in the Gospels. The Quran is basically saying that whereas the Jews thought that they had the upper hand in killing Jesus, Rather, it was God who was in control of the entire thing. So in another verse of the Quran, in Surah 8, the Quran says to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, you did not throw when you threw, but it was God who threw. The commentators say that this is a reference to the Prophet's, peace be upon him, action in one of the battles, where he picked up some dust and threw it into the direction of the enemy, and God caused that dust to enter their eyes. So the Quran is saying here that when you threw, that is the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, threw the dust, it was not he who threw, it was God who threw. So, of course, the way the Quran is saying it might imply that the Prophet did not throw at all. But what the Quran obviously means is that his throwing was not the whole story. The other side of this is that God was in action as well, and he caused the result which was desired by the action of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Or even if the Prophet, peace be upon him, did not think too much about it, he just threw some dust, it was God who made the effect come into existence. So, taking a cue from that, some commentators would now look at the verse that says, "Ma qataluhu wa ma salabuhu," they killed him not, nor did they crucify him, and interpret that to mean that even though the Jews thought that they were doing this to Jesus, it was actually God who was, for his own purposes, just allowing the whole thing to happen, or even engineering it to happen. And so the Christian story that God, resurrected Jesus from the dead would, according to these commentators, would be what the Quran is saying, that God raised Jesus into heaven. That's a different way of speaking about the resurrection from the dead. Now, in my own humble contribution to this, I've paid careful attention to to all of this discussion, and I note that in our modern times, we are different from the ancients in that there was a time when people looked at supernatural occurrences, and some believed and some did not believe, but a lot of people did believe. And people in olden times found it easier to believe in supernatural events than people of modern times. So whether Muslim or Christian or others, when we hear about a supernatural event, we try to give some scientific explanation of it. Like, how did it happen? There must be some scientific explanation. And if there's no scientific explanation for it, we tend to hold it askance, where it's hard to put our faith in a thing like that. So when Muslims are being told today, look, somebody was made to look like Jesus and put on the cross instead, the Muslim may have some difficulty with that. Some, of course, believe. They say, no problem. The Quran says it, we believe it. The problem, though, is that the Quran does not explicitly say that. And I would agree, if the Quran explicitly says that, then we will be more constrained into that belief. But when the Quran does not specifically say that, we should be interested in going back to the Quran and finding out what precisely does it say. And of course, to be sure what it doesn't say. So it doesn't say, the Quran doesn't say that somebody else was made to look like Jesus and put on the cross instead. Interestingly, one translation of the Quran, which tries to expand by giving brackets, puts this explanatory note there in parentheses, leading some Muslim readers to think that the Quran actually says that somebody was made to look like Jesus and put on the cross instead. But actually, the verse in Arabic says nothing of the sort. So I also pay attention to those who say that, the Quran may be saying here that even though the Jews succeeded in killing Jesus, they could not kill his spirit. And they refer to verses of the Quran which say that God is keeping the martyrs alive. So a martyr, by definition, is somebody who was killed for the faith. But yet the Quran says, "La taqulu liman yuqtalu fi sabilillahi amwat." Do not say, with reference to those who died in the way of God, that they are dead. Bal ahya, but they are alive. So God keeps them alive, and God even nourishes them. So yes, in one sense they're dead, but in another sense they're alive. And the Quran is saying, don't say that they're dead. So if you take that as an absolute prohibition, we couldn't even make the announcement of the death of a person who dies as a martyr. But of course, nobody says you cannot call them dead. Yes, we can at one level call them dead, but at the other level we say that they're alive with God. Some take this line of argumentation to say, well, okay, they thought they killed Jesus, but no, Jesus, they could only do that to the body. They could not kill the soul. So I pay attention to all of this, and modern scholars would be open to the possibility that if you say that Jesus was alive and eating with his disciples a few days after his alleged crucifixion, then he must have died sometime after the events in which he was eating and drinking with his disciples. So that means he didn't die at the crucifixion event itself. A scholar who is a Christian and who has who has made a statement close to this is E.P. Sanders in his book, Paul, A Very Short Introduction. Now, most historians would say that, the Gospels show that Jesus was crucified, and they would not have invented this if it didn't happen. And so we just take that as a historical fact. And then they would deny the Quran on that basis if they think that the Quran is denying that Jesus was, in fact, crucified. But if those same historians were to believe that Jesus was alive, eating with his disciples a few days after the crucifixion, then they would have to conclude that Jesus did not actually die by crucifixion. But generally what happens is that the historians discount all of those narratives that say that Jesus was there eating and drinking and appearing to his disciples for the 40 days following the crucifixion event. So they think that all of those were either inventions or they are describing hallucinations. The disciples thought they saw Jesus but did not actually see Jesus, and so on. So now, where do Muslims come in here? And where do I come in? So I feel that if we are to have dialogue with our Christian friends, then we want to accept as much of the gospel narratives as is possible. The Quran, of course, speaks highly of the Gospels and the rest of the Bible. So we should not be in the mood to deny everything from start to finish. And those who take the line of argumentation that somebody else was made to look like Jesus, they're denying a lot from start to finish. So I will say, however, that if we understand that Jesus was on the cross only for a few hours, and crucifixion takes a long time to kill a person, generally a few days, and the question remained as to what killed Jesus. Pilate was amazed when he heard that Jesus was already dead. So that would explain the shak or the doubt. That's why people had the doubts as to whether or not he really died, whether they finished the job of crucifying it. And then his body was missing from the tomb, so that would increase their doubt. Like, was this guy really dead? We thought we had him killed, but he was put in a tomb. Maybe he was still alive and then taken out of the tomb. This would explain why the Gospel of Matthew says that the Jews to his day were saying that the disciples came and stole the body of Jesus away. So maybe they mean that he was taken away and healed back to life, and that's why he was there eating and drinking with his disciples. But that is not stated in Matthew. So the question remains, what would have guaranteed the death of Jesus? Now, the Gospel according to John wanted to seal the deal by saying that a Roman soldier ran up and thrust a spear into the side of Jesus, and immediately came out of his side blood and water. So one might imagine that that spear thrust must have caused the death of Jesus, even though that is not absolutely certain. Some people who hold to what we call the swoon theory have questioned whether that spear thrust would have been enough to kill Jesus, or some have some other theories about whether a spear thrust like that may have kind of restarted a dormant circulatory system in this crucified person's body. But I'm not going that far. I'm just saying that historians generally now do not consider this spear thrust to be a historical incident. They think that John introduced this for his own theological purposes. So now, putting it all together in a nutshell before I come to your questions and comments now, because I want to wrap this up a bit early. I have other things to do today. Sorry about that. So, in a nutshell, if we take the view that Jesus was put on the cross, but he wasn't actually dead when taken down from the cross, and that God raised him to himself, to heaven, from the tomb, then this would explain a lot. It would basically take the Christian Gospels as they are, but at certain points we would have differences. Whereas, for example, the Gospels want to assure us that Jesus was actually dead. We can say maybe by their standards, because if a person is what we call near dead today, and they didn't have the medical facilities, it's not like they can take a person and hook him up to saline solution and give him all the nutrients and medicine that the person needs to nurse that person back to life. There is a certain there is a cutoff point for a person. Like, you go beyond that, you're still alive, but you can say dead man walking, because you're not going to come back by natural means. But of course, God can bring that person back, to life. And so it comes to a certain point where the people would have given up on Jesus. Okay, he's as good as dead now. So they left the scene of the crucifixion. They thought, okay, you're going to take him down, you're going to put him in a shallow grave. Maybe the dogs will come and eat his body, so he'll definitely be dead. If you bury him deeper, he'll suffocate and die. So in any case, one way or another, he's going to die. If you break his legs before taking him down from the cross, even if you put him in an airy chamber and roll a stone against the tomb, there's no way he's going to crawl his way out of that tomb. He won't be able to roll the stone back. And even if he did, perhaps in those days, there were no wheelchairs and no accessibility for crippled persons. So once he's already crippled and he suffered so much on the cross and so on, there's not much hope for him that he's going to survive. So they leave him there. They just presume that he's going to die. But then, lo and behold, the tomb is discovered to be empty, and then the Jews are alarmed. Maybe, the second deception will be greater than the first. They're worried what is going to happen now. Maybe the disciples stole the body, and they're going to nurse Jesus back to life and tell everyone that he came back to life and so on. So this is their worry. So in short, by taking the gospel narratives as they are, saying that Jesus may have reappeared to his disciples as a vision from heaven. God gave this vision to the disciples to console them, and the one vision came to be told and retold. People exaggerated, and they say, yes, he was here even in the flesh, and we touched him. We even put our finger into the nail wound, and we touched his side and examined that he had the wounds of crucifixion. So these will be taken to be later exaggerations in the story, but the Father Raymond Brown, in his 2-volume commentary on the Bible, on his 2-volume commentary on the Gospel according to John in the Bible, and that's part of this Anchor Bible series. And his 2-volume work, The Death of the Messiah, goes into a lot of details concerning this. And he also in his book, and especially his book entitled Introduction to New Testament Christology, Father Raymond Brown says that, when you look at all of the differences among what we call the post-resurrection narratives, where Jesus comes and he meets with his disciples in the Gospels of Matthew, Luke, and John, not in Mark, no, at least not in the original ending of Mark, but in the subsequent later ending added into the Gospel according to Mark from chapter 16 verses 9 to 20, we have accounts which seem to be mirror some of the accounts in the other Gospels. But in the other Gospels, this is where we have accounts written by the purported authors of the Gospels, except Gospel according to John, chapter 21, which is thought to be a later addition into the Gospel according to John. Now, in these three Gospels, we have a lot of narratives which do not actually coincide. They do not match. So what explains this? So Father Raymond Brown thinks and writes that there was initially one appearance of Jesus to his disciples, and that was a kind of a transcendent appearance. Jesus appeared to them like it's a vision. He wouldn't have said anything and done anything, and that one narrative became multiplied into many, because people started claiming, okay, he appeared to our leader, some claiming he appeared to Peter, some claiming he appeared to James. Paul himself claimed that Jesus appeared to him, and so on. Everybody wants to claim that Jesus appeared to them or to their leader. And that is what resulted in a multiplicity of reports. And of course, the exaggerations later, where people tried to make it more concrete. Okay, Jesus appeared in a vision, but that was not enough. People wanted to say, okay, he was here and we touched him and he ate. So we can see that this was a physical person. Not just the spiritual appearance and so on. So in short, we are able to accept much of the gospel narratives along with what many historians would find a respectable approach. And at the same time, we are paying attention to the explanations that Jesus appeared to his disciples later on. And we're saying, okay, if he appeared to his disciples later on, especially if he appeared in this flesh and blood manner, then how can you insist that he died a few days earlier as a historical statement? You might see as the theological belief, okay, he died and then God raised him back to life. But Muslims have a theological approach to this as well. They say that God did something miraculous to rescue Jesus. And I don't want to read too much of a miracle into this, because the more supernatural element you add to it, the more difficult it becomes for people to believe, even for Muslims themselves. And yes, we have to believe in a lot of supernatural things, but it doesn't mean that you add more and more supernatural things, because then the belief becomes too much of a burden. So all I'm saying is that let's assume that Jesus was put on the cross, and he was taken down alive. His tomb was found empty because God in the meantime had raised Jesus into heaven. And God showed his disciples a vision of Jesus, or some visions of Jesus, that convinced them that he was alive, and that energized them to go out and preach the message which they had known from Jesus. So that explains a lot. It answers the apologetic of many of the Christian apologists who try to show arguments for the belief in the resurrection of Jesus, because they argue these points. They argue that Jesus died by crucifixion, that he was his tomb was found empty, that this explains the resurrection or the appearance of Jesus to his disciples afterwards, and this explains the origin of the Christian way, that this is what energized the disciples to go out and preach. So you can see that most of those points are acceptable to me, except for the first one, that he actually died by crucifixion. And this is where my interlocutors have had great difficulty in trying to prove that Jesus actually died on the cross. Yes, you can find statements in the Gospels that seem to affirm the death of Jesus on the cross, but no clear evidence that he actually died, because there was no coroner in the scene, no death certificate, no pronouncement of the cause of death, and so on. But there was, on the other hand, doubt that Jesus actually died. So I feel that if we take this approach, and this makes sense of the Quranic verse, they did not kill him, nor did they crucify him. So lastly, before I get to your comments, so I would take they did not kill him to mean they did not kill him in some general way, and wama salabuhu, they did not crucify him, to mean that they did not kill him by the means of crucifixion. So they did not kill him by some general means, nor did they kill him by the means of crucifixion. Now, why the need for the repetition here? It's only because when you say that they did not kill him, somebody may be saying, but wait a minute, they did in the Gospels. And the Quran is saying, no, they did not kill him by the means of crucifixion, which is what the Gospels seem to indicate. So that's why it's to answer or that's one explanation, to answer the objection that would arise in the minds of the readers. Another point to be aware of here is that the term crucifixion can have two meanings. It can have the meaning that a person was merely put on the cross but then taken down. And we find this meaning in Quranic commentaries, not regarding the crucifixion of Jesus, but the crucifixion in relation to Surah 5, verse number 33, I believe, dealing with the muharibun, the highway robbers. So the crucifixion can have that meaning. You just merely put the person on the cross and then take the person down alive. But crucifixion could also mean that you kill the person by means of affixing that person to a cross. So which meaning is the Quranic verse denying here? The classical commentators took it that the Quranic verse is denying both meanings. The one that the Quran is saying they did not put him on the cross at all, and of course that they did not kill him by means of crucifixion. But it seems to me that the Quran is not denying that. If we take the story as I've outlined it so far, then to me the Quran is not denying that Jesus was put on the cross. The Quran is only denying that his enemies killed him by means of crucifixion. So he could have been put on the cross in that case, but not killed on the cross. So I'll leave you at that, and I come to your questions and comments, and let me take a quick look at those who have shared the stream and give a shout out and thanks to them. Brother Muhammad Mustafa, thank you for that. You shared the stream. And the others that I mentioned previously, Brother Muhammad Tunkara and Sister Tani and Brother Mustafa Sulu. Thank you all. And coming back to your questions and comments, I see here Nasiri saying, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. I have a question. Could we have the same broadcast in Calgary, Alberta? Well, so I'm not sure what precisely you mean, Brother Nasiri, but I'll be glad to visit Calgary and give some lectures there. But this would have to be organized. Just contact me later on and see how we can do this. In the meantime, please be aware that we have a show called Let the Quran Speak, which is broadcast on Vision TV throughout the country. And in the western provinces, it's also available on a channel that is broadcast out of Surrey, BC, and that is Joy TV. So have a look for these, but also check us out on YouTube. Our YouTube channel has the clips of our past episodes of Let the Quran Speak. So watch for that, and contact me by email. Go to my website, shabirali.com, and send me a message there so that we can be in touch. And I'll be glad to come to Alberta and give some lectures there as well. Okay, Paul Peter Malau. So you're saying, Paul, that's a great lie. Who resurrected? So I hope I've answered that during my extended discussion. But just in a nutshell, I would say that if Jesus was taken from the tomb alive, and then he was shown to his disciples as a vision from heaven, then that would explain what is the Muslim alternative, or will give a Muslim alternative to the Christian story of the resurrection of Jesus. In that case, it wouldn't be a resurrection from the dead, but it would be a preservation of Jesus alive when he was near dead, and God nursing him back and healing him to a state where he can be presented whole to his disciples. Of course, bearing still the wounds of crucifixion. Musa Isa saying, MashaAllah, Sheikh, may Allah reward you. Thank you so much, Brother Isa. And Claire Jones saying, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Wa alaikum salam, Sister Claire. And Sister Claire saying, as always, Dr. Shabir Ali is always so polite and wanting to get to the real truth, MashaAllah. Thank you so much, all of you, Sister Claire. And Brother Isa Musa, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all, and bless all of the people around you. And may Allah bless me to continue doing the work in a way that is most pleasing to him. Okay, Brother Madhu Hassan saying, thanks so much, Doctor, and thank you for being here, Brother Madhu, and thank you for your kind words. And Brother Mansoor Okunwaka Real, and again, please forgive me for any mispronunciations, and may Allah bless you all. Saying, MashaAllah, God protect you, Sheikh, and thank you, Brother Mansoor. And may Allah protect you too, and all of the people, all of you, all of your loved ones. Okay. Sitsunga Zahir saying, MashaAllah, and may Allah SWT bless you, my brother or sister. And Legibo Salifu saying, MashaAllah, and may Allah bless you as well, MashaAllah, for you all to be here. And may Allah protect you all and all of your loved ones. And Uba Ismail saying, Paul Peter Mlau, what 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 8 says? It's all writing according to Paul, that if Christ did not die and raise on the third day, then our preaching is vain. Oh, so you are okay. So you are replying to one of the other persons who commented here. Okay, and Ubay Ismail saying, Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh. Thank you, Brother Ubay Ismail. May Allah SWT bless you and give you a reward as well for being here, for spreading the message. May Allah SWT help us all to convey His message in a way that is pleasing to Him and convincing to the people. And we come to the preacher comedian saying, no wonder you don't have followers. Okay, all right, got a chuckle there. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to say the right thing to the right people in the right way. And my objective is not to get a lot of followers, but to discover and to share the truth. So I do a lot of studies, and I go into depth. I'm not a popularizer, so you know, I'm not looking to popularize, but only to please God. So thank you though for reminding me that I have a lot to work on, and I have shortcomings. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us to remove our shortcomings and to gain the qualities that He would like to see us have. Okay, Predicator Qurani saying, what do you think about works of Dennis MacDonald? That the whole story could have been just influenced by Homer. So I looked into this briefly, especially because our brother Ali Atai has done some work on this, and he's put out some videos concerning the writings of Dennis MacDonald and some others. So I prefer to let the scholars interact with Dennis MacDonald, because this is a scholarly field, and I don't have enough background to be able to fully analyze and evaluate what Dennis MacDonald is saying. Some of what he says are interesting, but I prefer usually to go with what is well established and agreed on by historians generally. So I didn't find prior to Dennis MacDonald in our recent times that there were historians of Christianity who are saying that the Gospels are influenced by Homer. So I'll wait and see if the scholars will eventually latch on to that idea. So this is how academia works. Somebody puts out an idea, they start publishing about it, other scholars read, they refute or try to refute, they answer, there are responses back and forth. Eventually an idea sticks. So we'll see if this idea eventually sticks among the scholarly community, and then we laypersons will have more confidence in referring to those as established facts. But in the meantime, it's an interesting theory, and may Allah guide us to what is true and what is best. Okay, Abba Hamid, baby. Abba Hamid, again, pronounce my mispronunciations. Sharif Abu Bakr saying, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Wa alaikum salam, my brother. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and all of the people around you. And we have a comment from Alfred Qatar. Alfred Qatar. Our Quran is denying Christ's crucifixion, but good thing about Christianity is we don't depend on other religion or book to validate Bible as a true book of God. Okay, so you meant your Quran. Christians, of course, will not be dependent on the Quran to explain their belief, and Muslims believe in the Quran and also the messages that came to previous prophets. Muslims therefore believe in the gospel of Jesus, on whom be peace. And then we try to restore or understand what was the original gospel before the current gospels came to be written, and we try to understand the Quran's message about Jesus and about what happened to Jesus in the end. And it seems that we have a congruence if we look at the matter scientifically and we think about how Jesus might have actually died so soon. Then it looks like the Quran has a point here, that they did not actually kill him. They might have left him for dead, because in those days, at the stage where Jesus had reached, he had gone, beyond a point by which he would return to health by natural means. And only God could have healed him back to life. So maybe in that sense, you can say that he died and came back to life, but not by modern standards. Alfred Qatar saying, Dr. Shabir, but your Quran said that nobody will die for the sin of someone, but you are saying that Jesus Christ didn't die, but someone else died on the cross instead of Christ. So, Brother if even if we accept that Jesus died on the cross, it wouldn't be for the sins of the world or sins of anybody else. And the other person who died, if another person died as a substitute, that person too would not have died for the sins of the world. No, nobody dies for the sins of the world. God freely forgives the sins of the world, especially when we turn to God seeking his forgiveness. Okay, and Farhan Najib saying, Salam, Dr. Shabir, hope all is well. From our perspective of it was made to appear so, we can understand if the people of the time thought it was Jesus, peace be upon him, being crucified. Not a fault, really. I could be wrong, but I believe the Gospel of Barnabas did mention that Jesus was not crucified. Yes, you're right. The Gospel of Barnabas has the story that Judas Iscariot was made to look like Jesus and he was crucified instead. Of course, I didn't refer to the Gospel of Barnabas as a proof for anything, because for Muslims, I believe that the Gospel of Barnabas needs more accreditation before we can use it as a Muslim proof, because for Muslims, any hadith has to be traced back to its source by a chain of narrators, or a book. We have to trace it back to the earliest times. And the Gospel of Barnabas was known by name and banned. And its name is in a list of banned books from ancient times, but we cannot be sure that this present Gospel of Barnabas, which was discovered in about the 16th century, is the same Gospel of Barnabas which had been missing for so many hundreds of years and was once mentioned by name in a list of banned books. So for this reason, I prefer not to use it, especially since when we introduce it, our Christian friends are going to say, you know what, that's a forgery. They might even say that the Muslim forged it. So rather than to poison that whole discussion, I prefer to refer to the documents that our Christian friends hold in esteem, and then we make our points based on that. Okay, Predicator saying, thanks, Doctor. Greetings from Mexico. MashaAllah. May Allah bless you and all of the people of Mexico. And Brother Mansour Said saying, can we not hold any big debates with Christian scholars openly? Well, yes, we can, and it is up to I myself am not good at organizing. I if I had a choice, I would be I would have my nose buried in a book. So I need other people to organize things like that, and I'd be glad to participate. So let me know if you can do that for me. May Allah SWT bless you all. My brothers, sisters, and friends, we're happy to announce that in the Toronto area in Mississauga, we have bought a building to establish the Muslim Media Hub. And this will be the hub where we'll produce our television broadcast, Let the Quran Speak. We'll have a podcast studio, recording studio. We'll have training facilities to train the youth to produce TV programs and videos for social media and other uses. To get the message of Islam out to the world. So if you can support us in any way, please do. Go to our website, QuranSpeaks.com, and you will find the ways to donate there. QuranSpeaks.com. So please support that mission and message. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. And looking again at those who have shared the stream, I see Brother Mustafa Bashir has shared it as well. Thank you all for that. And thanks to all of you who have joined, who have watched, who have sent me comments. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all and reward you and protect you all and all of your loved ones. Peace be with you and the mercy of Allah. Join me again next week, same time, on the same place. And also, start following me, please, on Instagram, because I'll start posting on Instagram as well. In the meantime, look for my Instagram account, which just has my name, Ali_Shabir. Somebody else has an Instagram account with my name. I've reached out to that person to take that one down so that I can reclaim the name. But in the meantime, you can follow me on my genuine Instagram account. The other one is of course done with good faith, but maybe the person did it, like put it up and then eventually neglected it. But I am going to make it active, inshallah. So peace be with you and the mercy and blessings of Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Love you all.